Welcome to the Naked Peaches. I'm Anna.
I'm Taylor.
All right, we're getting right into it today. So I need to come clean about stuff from last episode.
Oh my God. Did you lie to me about something?
No lying. But just like, I was listening back to it, right? And I'm like, Anna, like, you cannot be out here talking about being in your paper bag era and like hiding your face. And obviously, like, my acne journey has been very traumatic and challenging, and I don't like need to go into the whole story today. Like we could do like an acne episode at one point. I feel like
oh my God, we have so much to
like we could probably talk for 4 hours about that each. But I was like, okay, I like through so many parts of my life have tied my self-worth to my acne and like to my face, and I'm like, this is like I'm in like a darker cycle right now, but this is not my self-worth, and so I need to get out of this.
Yeah.
So I'm better now. I'm still
I'm healed.
Yeah.
3 days later.
Still dealing with it. But I have actively been like, when I'm in the mirror now, I'm like not focusing on that. So I've been focusing on my eyeliner wing, and I'm like, I'm just gonna like look at my eyeliner wing and not look at my acne. Or I'm gonna look at my eyebrows today and not look at my acne. And like, it's going away, but also it's really hard when you have a job in front of the camera and you are always putting on heavier makeup. So I am healthier now than I was last week, and I'm continuing to work on my healthy lack of toxicity with my own face.
Okay. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
It's hard. It's really hard.
It's hard. Yeah, but it needs to happen. Also, it's like I'm in my 30s now. Like I can't have the same reactions to things that I used to have 10 years ago, you know?
Yeah. Do you know about the whole thing of like rewiring your neural pathways with like changing your thoughts?
Is that what I'm doing right now?
I know we shout out Megan on every episode, but I was just talking to Megan about this.
Megan, friend of the pod.
Yeah, she's doing my brows the other day. This idea of like literally shutting down a thought or like not doing something. And if you do that enough times, it like rewires your brain. So like her example that we were talking about was like if she, and I think she would be okay with me saying this because we were like, you need to come on the pod and talk about this. But she was saying like if she has the thought like I want to work out, and then like if her brain is like if any part of her is like I'm doing that because I want to be smaller, she's like nope, I'm not going to work out, like not going to do it. So like you're not like you're not increasing the strength of like that pathway of like smaller equals working out to like have a healthier relationship with working out.
Yeah.
And I feel like you could apply this to your acne journey. Perhaps.
I think you're right.
Like,
yeah.
Maybe it's like, okay, I need to put on makeup because my skin is disgusting. And then maybe it's like, you just don't put on makeup if you feel that way, or I don't know, whatever it is for you. But do you know what I mean?
No, I know what you mean. I guess I've kind of been doing it this week, but I'll like, when I'm in front of the mirror, if I'm like doing my nighttime routine or brushing my teeth or whatever, it's like anytime I start to have like negative thoughts about it or like start fixating it, I just like stop or like take steps back and like don't stand so close to it, because I'm like, if I'm not staring directly at this white head, then it's like that's better for me. You know?
Like don't feed it. Don't give it the energy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at.
Wow. I love that for you.
Thank you.
Well, coincidentally was going to update about my skin also.
We're a skincare podcast now, everybody.
Yeah. Every week it's a different genre. So I have a cystic pimple on my chin. It's been there for weeks. It's like, it feels like there is a pebble growing inside my face. Like it's this rock hard thing on my chin. And like, luckily I feel like it's kind of tucked away under my chin so you can't super see it, but like I feel it all the time. And I have been icing this bitch. I've been putting benzoyl peroxide on it every night. Like it is not getting any smaller. And I'm like, am I going to have to go to the doctor and have them like cut it out of me with a fucking scalpel? Like that's how it feels.
Can you do that?
I mean, haven't you seen Dr. Pimple Popper?
I guess I have. I just didn't know like a normal person could just make an appointment and be like, get this out of my face.
Yeah. But I mean, sometimes for the really serious ones, they actually are like cutting open the skin. It's not just
scary.
like this is so deep and hard that I don't think you could just squeeze it and pop it with like an extractor. That's my skin journey. I also have this like red dot under my eye that I'm like, what happened here? Like I just woke up one day and there was like, it looked like I had burst a blood vessel on my under eye, and I don't understand what happened.
Do you think the eye twitch caused?
Probably, yes. My eye, like something like misfired from all the twitching.
Oh my God. Wait, so are you getting it cut out?
No.
Okay.
That's like a last resort. Like if this thing is still here in a month, then maybe I'll make the appointment. But like for now, I'm just going to complain about it.
Yeah. I had, it wasn't a really big one, but it was like one in my forehead for probably 7 months, like back during the pandemic when I wasn't seeing people anyway. So I was like, whatever. But I still remember like the day that it popped, I was like, wow, like this has been here for so long. And then once it popped, it was like a scar for another like 4 months. So,
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. I have a scar on like I don't even know if this is my vulva. It's like like my bikini area.
Okay.
I have a scar that's like a hole, basically. It looks like a little hole in my skin from like a like ingrown hair that I popped and then like took tweezers and was digging in until it basically created this like cavern in my skin. And this was like probably 10 years ago and it's still there.
Oh my God.
Isn't that crazy?
That is really crazy.
Yeah. Every time I think about it, I like get annoyed at myself for digging out that ingrown hair.
Is it like pretty noticeable? Like,
if I shave everything,
Yeah.
yes, it's noticeable.
Wow.
I'll show you sometime.
wow, this is how we team bond, by the way.
Yeah. Okay, well, on that note, should we introduce our guest?
Yeah, speaking of team, today we have Allison. Allison, welcome to the pod.
Hi, thanks. Excited to be here.
The posse knows you a good amount at this point.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, all of the memes that you see on the Peach Posse Instagram that are roasting me and Anna are posted by Allison.
Thank you.
She's also in a lot of the posing videos. She is like a true gem on the team.
Yeah.
You have come in and filled so many holes. It's been incredible.
Yeah.
Speaking of holes.
Yeah, we love having you on the team. Allison and
mutual.
I met at pole class. Is that okay to say?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
When I tell people I met my boss at pole dancing.
I feel like that really set the tone.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
Also, one time Allison told me that I was the most non-toxic boss she's ever had, and I screenshotted it and I saved the picture of it because it made me feel so good.
Well, it's so true. Also, I've like realized that my mental health has been, not that it was ever like really bad before working at Naked Peach within the last like 2 years, but I'm like, I have so much more energy in my life because I'm like not drained by work.
Oh my God, that makes me so happy.
Like lately I've been like making jokes. I'm like, wow, it's been a while. I don't know, like I just have more like energy with my friends and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just don't feel drained.
Yeah.
I'm tired. Yeah.
I love that so much.
me too.
That's like all I want in a work environment is for people to like want to come to work.
Yeah.
I do. It's
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, Allison works with us, but she's like an extraordinaire in so many other parts of her life.
Thank you.
With your how many different jobs do you have?
I do freelance photography for like 3 or 4 newspapers in town.
Okay.
3 mainly.
You also
Yeah.
go on tour
I did go on tour with a
band.
band. Yeah.
as a photographer, which is
Yeah.
super cool.
Yeah. So I'm like also pursuing like freelance photo stuff at the same time.
And I feel like you're always doing like creative shoots.
Yeah. It's a little I'm trying to like slow down and like not plan one thing till the next thing is finished. So I'm
That's
trying
smart.
to really balance it out. But my head is just so full all the time and I'm like, I want to execute everything.
I know.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. We're the same way. I feel like we'll have like a lull or like a slow week and then we'll plan like 15 things. And then when it all happens, it's like, why did we plan 7 days of back-to-back shoots?
Oh my
like, you know,
God,
morning and night. Like,
yeah.
at the time we were bored and we thought we needed to, but it was like just a passing thing that lasted for a day.
So I'm trying to be more aware of that too.
Can you tell us about how you ended up being a photographer going on tour with
my
a band? Because I
God.
feel like that's like every photographer's dream.
It was so fun. I'd been wanting to go on tour with a band since I was probably in high school, so I think it's been like 8 years now. And I really just wanted to travel and like someone to pay for it. And then I would shoot my shot for years and I would shoot concerts and meet musicians and stuff. And after I would meet musicians in real life who were like traveling or in Portland or even cold emailing sometimes, I'd email managers and I'd just be like, do you need a photographer? And they'd always say no or not respond most of the time. And then this band I had met when I was in New York one time announced they were going on a tour, and I emailed them and I was like, do you want a photographer? And they said yes. So I went. And I freaked out. It was so fun. They're based out of New York, so they bought my plane ticket to and from New York, and I went on tour with them. I drove all around like half the country with them. I remember after buying my plane ticket, I was like, oh my God, I've wanted this for so long, but like what did I just sign up for? I kind of freaked out, but it was like the best experience I could have had. So,
That's so cool.
It was so fun.
I would be
Yeah.
so terrified to be
Oh,
like
yeah.
on like, it's like once you're there, you're like, there's no getting out of it really.
Yeah.
You're like stuck with these people. So like the fact that you had a good time and
Yeah.
you ended up like really loving everyone.
Yeah,
right?
they were just so awesome. We got along so well. It was like hanging out with friends for like 5 weeks straight. But I didn't realize till like I said, that moment where I was like, oh my God, what did I do? I just didn't process I'd be with like 4 strangers for 5 weeks in a van and like sleeping with them on a couch. And but I had a good feeling. Like I had a really good feeling in my gut. And I had met them before, so I knew they were cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As the photographer on tour, are you just kind of shooting like when the shows happen? Or are you just like constantly, are you like trying to document everything that's happening on this tour?
The shows were the main thing, and then I would help film video, like for TikTok stuff that they wanted to do. And then we tried to take a portrait before every show. I also just took my film camera and photographed what we were doing. Like they didn't ask me to do that, but so I was pretty much on all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. And she was still editing our podcast and making content for us throughout all this time.
Yeah, I did it in the van. It was really fun.
Did you ever have them listen to you while you were editing the podcast?
I think one time they heard it. I like was working in someone's office and I had my headphones out and they walked in and you guys were talking about sex or something and I was like, that's my work. That was like the only time really.
Yeah.
Sounds
Yeah.
about right.
Okay. I also feel like something you said was like you would just like shoot your shot over and over again.
Yeah.
I feel like just from like my experience with you, you're obviously good at that. Like you came up to me after pole class and I never know how to say the past tense of shoot your shot. You shooted your shot.
You shot your
I
shot?
shot my shot.
You shot your shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You shot your shot at pole.
Yes.
And then I remember being like, oh yeah, and kind of like didn't really follow up about it. And then you like DM'd me a couple more times after that. And then like eventually at some point when you reached out, the timing was perfect. And I was like, yes, like come train to be an assistant basically. And then it's obviously grown from there.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like especially creative people sometimes can have a really hard time bringing themselves to do that because it's so scary, like that concept of like being rejected or like I don't know, it's just easy to talk yourself into thinking like, oh, they would never want anything to do with me. So like how have you gotten so comfortable with that?
Well, I've been doing it since high school. I'm trying to think. I don't think I was nervous in high school because I was in a different mindset. I was really into like zine culture. Do you guys know about that?
Yeah.
Okay. So when I was a freshman in college.
Let's explain it though for people that don't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely posse members that.
Okay, so I'm a Gen Zer, kind of. And when I was in high school, there was like this really big online community across the world. And again, this was big in the 90s too. And there were big magazines that existed for like teen girls. The biggest one's called Rookie. But then lots of people all over the world who were younger, like high school, middle school even maybe, would make their own zine. And a lot of it was online. And they still exist today, especially in like the music world. But people will start their own websites for writing, poetry, art, just like have a place to publish for people. And so I was really into finding those magazines and sending my work out. But those magazines probably had like 300 followers on Instagram. So of course they were going to say yes because they like needed content. So I think I didn't really get rejected in the beginning. I just kind of like did it over and over again. And like, I think another thing that impacted me was I went to University of Oregon for journalism and they teach you a lot about how to network. And so I was so scared, like asking people for coffee or something. But like I had such bad anxiety in high school and college, but it literally just took practice. And like I was just so determined to do photography, and I still am, that I shoot my shot. And like now I shoot my shot on a way bigger scale. Like I have some emails of editors at the New York Times. I've emailed them and they don't respond, but like at least I tried it. Like one day I think it'll work. Like a photojournalist I met who's really, really good. She gets hired all the time in Portland by the New York Times and the Post and stuff. She's like their go-to person. And she was like, they're not going to respond the first time. Just keep emailing them. Keep reminding them you're there. Show them your work like constantly and they'll remember you. That was like some of the best advice I've ever gotten. And it's just like, I don't think you're going to annoy people by asking to help or asking for work. I think it shows that you care.
Totally.
And I'm so used to rejection. And like now it doesn't really, it hurts if it's something I really care about. Like I know the New York Times isn't going to respond to me right now, so I don't get hurt. I'm like, oh, I'm just putting my name out there.
Yeah.
Even if no one keeps responding, like someone has at least seen your name across their desk, you know? So it's like the more times you do things like that, the more they're like, okay, that name, that it like keeps coming back, you know? It sticks in people's heads.
Yeah. That's kind of what she told me too, was like, or she told me some story about some guy from Oregon who has become a successful photojournalist, and how he got to where he is because he like pestered the editor once a week, and the editor would remember his name. So it's just more about like getting them to remember your name and where you are, and just showing them like new work. And yeah, if like I had DM'd Taylor and she didn't respond, like the worst that happens is she just didn't respond. Like I'm not really embarrassed by that. So.
Yeah. And like I feel like you also never know like what the context is of like what situation that person is in. So like maybe the first 20 times you email them, their plate is super full and they're like, I don't have any room to take on any new work right now. But then like the 21st time, maybe they just had some sort of need come up that someone they already work with can't fill, and like if your name is the one that's in their inbox, like maybe they'll ask you. I feel like like people always ask us like, how do I get a job at Naked Peach? And it's like, honestly, we haven't ever really had to do a ton of like opening up a job and like having people apply, because it's like we have people who are like persistent and like let us know over and over again that they want to work for us. And then like when we have a need, one of those people will usually come to mind, because it's like, oh, so-and-so is, I know they have experience with this. And so I totally agree with that.
Absolutely. Even like an example I'm thinking about too is like I had a gig for photography recently where I could hire a model. Like I had to model a sock and I got to pay the model. And like the first person that popped in my head was a girl who had asked me several times, but not annoyingly, just kind of over the course of like a couple months, being like, I'd love to model for you sometime. And like, she was just the first person I thought of, and she was available. So I think if you just like show that you really care about something, people will remember you. So.
Yeah, this is inspiring me.
Oh. Yeah, who are you gonna shoot your shot with, Taylor?
Well, I don't want to jinx it.
Okay, we don't have to talk about it.
I can tell you guys after we are done recording.
Is it a publication or a model?
It's a model.
Okay,
we'll talk about it after.
For models, you should always just ask, because people love photos of themselves.
That's true. That's true. We're always reaching out to the models being like, oh, they'll never respond to us. And then they're always like, yes, I would love to. Like, when and where?
Well, you guys have a great rep. That's why.
Thank you.
Like, of course they want to. And they're free photos of themselves that are otherwise they have to pay money for. You know what I mean? I would be flattered. So.
Yeah. I feel like where I get kind of like tripped up is like some models get paid to model, you know?
Yeah.
And so then I'm like, I don't ever want to offend someone by being like, will you do it in exchange for photos? Like, and we're not going to pay you for your work or whatever. But then there's so many people who are not at that level yet in their career who will just do it to get the photos for free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I don't want to like make people think that I don't think their work is worth paying for. It's just like, typically it's brands with big budgets that can pay for those kinds of models.
I still don't understand that line sometimes. Like, I respect the models that are like, no, I need to get my money, but also like I will shoot for free sometimes, so it's like if I ask you to shoot, could it be more for fun? I don't know. It's just like, when do you pay, when do you not? I don't really know.
I know, especially when it's more of like a creative thing where it's like you might be trying something new too, so it's like you're trying to do it with a model, so you're like also building up some other skill that like photography wise, it's different.
Well, Anna and I are going to the boudoir class.
We are.
Once this comes out, it will have already been announced.
Yes.
Fun. The LA thing.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And there's going to be a lot of really knowledgeable photographers there, so maybe we can ask people about this and, you know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Bring this question to the group.
Yeah.
You should talk more about the LA trip.
Yeah. So we're going to LA in July, and we are teaching a class.
Yes.
On marketing and branding for boudoir photographers. And this also arose from shooting our shot, because there's a Facebook group for the boudoir class. We had joined it, and I just happened to see one night that they had opened up their applications for educators. And this is something we've always talked about, like, wanting to do someday, but, like, I did not think we were there yet. And I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to fill out the form and see what happens. Like, they'll probably never respond to me, but might as well. And then, like, a couple weeks later, we had a call booked with the photographer, Hannah Rachel, who, like, leads the boudoir class. And we were, like, she was, like, telling us to create our curriculum and make an outline. And now we're teaching a class. So we're really excited.
So cool. You just literally have to fake it till you make it sometimes.
For sure.
Like, another example was I really, really wanted to work for the Willamette Week. For people who aren't in Oregon, that's, like, one of the bigger magazines and newspapers in Portland. And I did not think I was ready at all. But I shot my shot once, like 6 months earlier, and it didn't work. And then I did it again, and it worked. And, like, I didn't think my work was good enough. And I got critique from my first stuff. And it was like, try this and this. But, like, I just had a good attitude, and I did it again. And I do get asked back, which has been really fun. But, like, that's just another example of how I didn't think I was ready. But when are you going to ever be? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
I wonder if like shooting your shot works so well because most people just don't.
Yeah.
So it's like a numbers game, you know? Like
Yeah.
if everyone's scared to do it, the few people that do it are usually the ones that get whatever they're, searching for.
Yeah, that's how you become a lucky girl.
Yes.
Yeah, truly though.
What's the saying? Fortune favors the bold.
Yeah, it's true though.
Yeah.
You have to
Wow.
put yourself out there and your work out there.
I know. And also, like, this whole boudoir class thing has, like, inspired us to do all these other education things that have been just, like, on a list that we've been ignoring forever. But now that we're putting ourselves out there as educators, there's other people asking us other questions. And we're like, we can, like, create guides for all these different things to help people. Like, we've done all this stuff, and we just need to, like, format it, basically, to, like, tell other people how we did it. So,
Yeah.
So
And
cool.
it's just stuff where it's like you think it's nothing special, but then it's like, okay, this is very random, but this morning I was at the dentist and where I go for my dentist, it's like you have your hygienist and they're like your hygienist for, I guess, forever until they stop working there, you stop going there. Yeah. But my hygienist like moved or something. So today I had a new one. And this girl and I are just talking and she's asking me like, oh, are you going to work after this? And I was like, yeah, like it's, whatever. I was like, but it's, it's kind of like a chill day today. Like I'm gonna do some editing. I'm gonna have my to-do. Like I was just talking about all the things after. I was like, we're going to record this podcast episode. And then she's like, oh my gosh, like you have a podcast. And she started asking me all these questions because her and her husband are like got all this stuff. They wanted to start a podcast. They like did a couple episodes, but then like they like got a house, like they got busy, they're like restarting it, and she was like asking about like mics and equipment and all this stuff where I'm like, I don't necessarily feel like a pro, but like I gave her some really useful information and she was like really excited about it. But it's like, okay, cool. It's like just some of the most simple stuff where you're like, oh, like this is really simple, like other people just like want to know because they like just aren't on that step yet, you know?
Yeah. And you're saving people the time that we spent researching everything and trial and error with like the first mics that we had that were shitty and the cords that we got that didn't work and all that stuff.
Yeah.
The very first time we tried to podcast, our cords we had like the wrong end of the cord. It was like a female cord instead of a male cord or whatever. And like then there was a thing with like the number of lines on the cords was like causing problems with the sound and all these things that like I don't know how you'd ever know if you weren't like an audio engineer.
Yeah.
So we got to make a podcasting guide.
I know.
True. You could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gonna make a guide for everything.
The people will want it.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the other things that we've talked about and that I know you've been like on a journey with is like this whole healing journey around like your sexuality and like becoming more comfortable with it and like I feel like it's come up like in the things we do at Naked Peach, like you modeled for a shoot for Hannah and all of that stuff. So I don't know, can you like tell us more about that?
Yeah, I'm really passionate about like I want to say all things related to sex, but I mean like sex education, sex positivity, empowerment.
Do you like this show, Sex Education?
I've only seen a couple episodes, but I liked it.
I love
what
that
saw.
show.
Okay, I should finish. But yeah, I just like let's see. I just grew up, and probably a lot of people can relate to this, but like with very conservative parents, and not that doesn't even mean like politically necessarily, but like just traditional and old fashioned, and like sex was very taboo. And I went to Sunday school, and like I don't know, I heard like horror stories of like someone in my family like had a bad losing their virginity experience, and my mom like it was just very very ingrained that that's not something you do till marriage, which I found out is like actually my mom was just saying that, but they didn't follow that. But like my mom was just very, I think because there's like trauma in my family that they're very much like you wait till marriage. I just was like this is so bad, and like I lost my virginity pretty late. I'm doing air quotes for people listening because I was like so scared of just a lot of stuff that I grew up like ingrained in me. Just like a lot of layers there growing up. And then I'm only 24 now, and at 22 I had my first boyfriend, and which I still had a lot of anxiety about that was late, and I put a lot of pressure on myself, and we waited like not a really long time, but we waited a while to have sex. And like
how long?
I knew him, we were like not officially dating, but from the time I knew him it was always kind of dating. So I don't know, probably like 7 months since I first met him.
Okay, yeah, I feel like that's
yeah, but probably like 2 weeks after being official. I don't really know. that relationship ended up being pretty bad, and that was the first time I ever had sex, and the only person I had sex with at this time. So I started going through this like journey to like becoming okay with sexuality and becoming confident and like loving myself and all this stuff that was like really challenging, but now I like really care about. And I told the Peaches I wanted to talk about this because at the time, like, I didn't have anything to listen to or like really read about people who like struggle with sexuality in the sense of like being confident during sex and feeling sexy and all this stuff. And I got out of the relationship about a year ago, and now I'm in like a really great healthy relationship we love. But I could just like talk about the things that I did to like help heal that and like how I worked through that, because I know some good resources and what helped me and stuff. So
Yeah.
Tell us everything. 'Cause
Yeah.
a lot of people can definitely relate to this.
Yeah.
I don't think I know a single person who was younger and didn't feel like slut shamed or anything for even having like any kind of like sexual thoughts or like anything. You know, it's like it seems like everyone in our generation is just very like, you have to be this little pure girl, you know, and if you're not that, you're bad.
Yeah, totally. And so then you don't like learn anything about like sex is never about like what you like or what feels good, because that's shameful. And then it just becomes about like, I'm just here to make him feel good, you know, if your partner's a him. But
yeah. Well, the first thing I did was when I was in my bad relationship, I went to therapy for like really the first time. I like tried before. I had some like therapists that were like kind of, I don't know, they weren't very interesting. Is like a good way to put it. Like they were very like bland and just kind of like, okay. And I felt kind of judged by them always, so I only went like twice. So
I hate that when a therapist doesn't have enough to say.
I know.
It's like, I need you to be giving me the cold, hard truth.
No, I know. She like never really gave me advice, like the one I saw in school. And then I was like ashamed to tell her some stuff because I thought she would judge me. And I was like, I should not be scared to tell my therapist stuff. So I found a therapist on psychologytoday.com who is like a woman and queer and specialized in like sexual assault stuff. And I was like, cool, that's my girl. Loved her. She was very helpful. But I think the biggest thing that my friends now tell me, they tried to tell me this, but I didn't see it because I was so blindsided, was the relationship I was in was so bad and like made me feel so bad about myself, like during sex and stuff, but I thought that was normal. Yeah, wish I listened to my friends. But that was the first thing. And then she had to like quit the firm she was at for some reason. Her company was like, there's some controversy around her company, so she left and I couldn't go to her anymore, and she referred me to a therapist who is like a sex and relationships and body image therapist. And it was like the best thing I've ever done. She's awesome. So I go to her now. I just talked to her yesterday. She's great. Cute. So going to like a therapist whose identity I like align with, and like just being able to talk about like girly things and your body and like being scared to do XYZ during sex. Like sometimes I'll literally tell her like, and I was on top and then this, like it's like very like detailed, and she loves it. Like it's great.
That's so cool.
Yeah. I also got my old therapist, the first one, suggested I start putting myself in sexual situations, as in not necessarily having sex, but she told me to go to a strip club, and that was so fun. I loved it. That was like the most empowering thing I could have done. And I went with my guy friends who were very wholesome and so cute. And like the women would come over and my guys friends would be like, "You're beautiful." It was very cute, and like it was so fun to go with them. And I just felt so empowered because I was like, there are these women there who are like so beautiful and so confident and just like unapologetic, and that was like the coolest thing. And everyone looked different, and like I always thought, this is stereotypical, but I always thought strippers had to look a certain way. And then to see that some of them had small boobs or were like a little chubby, and like guys were giving them money, I was like, this is so cool. And then I started doing pole dancing. That's actually why I started going, was my therapist was like, I think that'd be really good for you. And that was also one of the like best things I could have done too. It helps you feel so connected with yourself. And like, I still struggle with this, but like, which is why I want to go back, but like doing pole dancing like encourages you to be sexy and feel sexy and like walk a certain way, and I don't know, just it feels really good for you, and the strength is fun, and like I don't think I'd ever like perform with it, but it's more of just like a practice to like feel confident, and that's also been really fun.
Totally.
So, yeah.
Even like, I mean, I was thinking about how when I first started doing pole and we would have to do the move where you like lay down on the ground and you like spread your legs and kind of arch your back. I would be so uncomfortable with that because I'd be like, what if somebody can see my lips, or like, you know, just like because you're wearing like little shorts, and or like where you are like you're like kind of holding yourself up on your arms and you bring your legs out in a straddle.
That's
the
one I was thinking of.
Yeah, those moves, like I wouldn't really do them, or I'd like go through them really fast and kind of move on to the next thing because I felt so uncomfortable with just the idea of spreading my legs. Like it just made me feel really uncomfortable, and like slowly have gotten more and more comfortable with that, and like not even really like in a conscious way, but it just makes you feel more, I think, comfortable like embodying your sexuality. And like I don't know, you see other people in class or you see other people perform and you're like, oh, we all have like butt acne or whatever, but like I still think these other people look really hot and confident, and it inspires you to do the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I remember my first pole class, I went with my best friend, and we were so scared. We were like in the back and we couldn't go without each other. We had to share a pole. Like we were very scared. And then I did pole one again I did it twice again by myself, I think. And now I was still a little nervous, but I think now if I went, I don't think I'd care as much. Mm-hmm. I hope this isn't weird, but I told my therapist, your confidence really inspires me. Yeah, like I told her about the Kristen's dance class. And I was like, I can tell Taylor, like my boss's like pole dancing has like, I can tell she's done it so much. Because you were so like confident during that.
You were
dance
so
class.
graceful during
the
graceful
is like a really good word. I told her, my therapist, I was like, I love her. She's a girly, so I like always reference her. But I was like, I don't even need to like do this during sex. Like I just want to not feel awkward when I'm dancing sexy. And like it doesn't have to be for anyone. I just like, I love feeling empowered by myself. So even though I'm like in a way better place with a way better partner, and like I don't struggle during sex anymore, like I still feel like I want to feel less awkward in my body. But that has been like pole and that exotic dance class was like really helpful for that. Oh, and doing a boudoir shoot was really helpful too.
Well, I think we should tell the posse a little bit about that dance class because we haven't really deep dived into it.
Oh, true.
Yeah,
we haven't talked about it.
So we did this erotic dance class with Kristen, who was on the pod a few episodes back.
Yeah, our intimacy coordinator.
Yeah, and we are gonna do an event with her. So posse members, like, we haven't announced it yet, but you'll obviously all be the first to know because we love you all so much. But we are going to do like a bigger class with her. But it was really fun. She came to the studio and she basically taught us some really basic like erotic dance moves and then how to like piece them together, which I felt like that was really helpful just as someone who doesn't have very much rhythm per se. It was nice to learn how like they can go together. And then it's like, I actually thought that it was more helpful that we didn't learn a full routine and just learned how to piece them together because then I felt like I could actually like take that and practice myself some ways, you know?
Yeah.
But watching her to me was even just so mind-blowing because she just flowed through things like so effortlessly and was like so confident and like even just like walking towards the mirror staring at herself. I was like, why is this so hard to walk towards the mirror and look at myself while I'm like doing a sexy walk? Like
I was so nervous. I talked to my therapist about that too, and she was like at the end she's like, we'll talk about that next time, you know, like something like that. But I know Kristen actually, I connected her with Naked Peach because I'm good friends with her daughter. And her daughter's like 3 years younger than me, and she's always had like the most confidence I've ever known. Like I remember being in high school, I was a senior and she was a freshman, and my dad would be like, why are you hanging out with a 14-year-old? But I'm like, she's like so cool and so mature. Like she would wear, back when like big hipster hats were in, if you remember that, like 2014.
Oh yeah.
She would wear that. For me, that was like the most nerve-wracking thing, to have anything that would like draw attention to me. But I always thought she was just so cool and so confident. And then getting to know her mom was a stripper. And so she's always really instilled like confidence and autonomy in her children. And I love Kristen. So I did that class. And after it, I was like, I just was like feeling up myself in front of my friend's mom, but it like didn't feel like that because she's just like, Kristen's like a friend and like a mom too. And now her daughter is like in a rock band and she's very confident and she dresses. One time she told me she was dressed very slutty in a respectful, hot way. And she was like, I look conservative tonight because my grandpa's here. And I was like, your ass is out. like how? But like my friends and I who are older, we go to her shows and we're like, holy shit, like how is she this confident? Like she's way more confident than any of us like are right now. And I think it's how much her mom has instilled in her with just like being confident and your body is cool and like, yeah.
That's so cool.
I know, like I love the way I grew up. I love my parents and stuff, but if I were to have any other trait in my parents would be that, I think. Like I really respect how she raised her kids. So
yeah.
That is so amazing. I love hearing that. I love like young confident girls. Like every
so
young
much.
girl should be confident, and it's like sad that it is so rare, you know?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's why, I mean, you guys know I'm obsessed with having a daughter because I want to raise someone to be confident like that.
And a bad bitch. I love it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I totally agree though. Like the class was really empowering, even though I obviously take pole classes all the time. It was a different experience to take it from Kristen because she was kind of coming at it from a different angle. Like usually in pole class, you're working on specific moves that you're trying to learn or a specific set of choreography. And her class was much more about like becoming comfortable with kind of flowing through different movements and feeling sexy, not about necessarily memorizing something or doing like a certain technique.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was really helpful. And like, I love hearing you guys say that like my confidence inspires you because I still feel like I have a long way to go. Like in pole class, there's sections where you'll do like freestyle and like I really struggle with like the freestyling part and I've gotten better over time and I feel like I'm always getting like a little bit better, but sometimes I overthink it and I'm like, this is gonna look stupid or I don't remember the exact way to do this move, so I'm not gonna try it and I'll just end up kind of like circling around the pole and not really doing anything. And so I felt like that class was almost like the lessons I needed to learn to like be able to freestyle more. So I appreciated it for that reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is funny because we were basically all in a room just like feeling ourselves up for like 2 hours
Literally.
straight. But it was like, it was so much less awkward than I thought it was going to be, even though there were definitely parts of it where I felt awkward myself, but like I also knew that like no one was focusing on anyone else. Like everyone's just trying to figure out their own shit and like how to move their bodies or like watching Kristen do what she's doing or like learning something.
If I looked at you guys, I thought you looked hot. Like I didn't think you looked awkward.
No, exactly. But then I know but then internally I'm like, everything I'm doing right now is like so weird. But it was very weird. Like it was weird because it was like so fun, but also so awkward. And also like, what am I doing? Why can't I look at myself in the mirror right now?
Yeah.
I think I told someone, probably my boyfriend afterwards, I was like, if there's anyone I could get, because for the video, we would like literally go like this and stuff. Like, I was like, if there's anyone I could do that in front of, it's Naked Peach and Kristen.
Yeah.
Like, those are the two like very sex positive sources in my life. So it was really fun and comfortable.
I love that. I'm excited to do a bigger one with the posse. I think it'll be really fun for people.
So fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to back up to what you were saying about your therapist. She sounds amazing.
The one I have now or the old one?
The one you have now.
Love her.
Yeah.
Love her. Yes.
Could you tell us like maybe like has she had you do any like specific kind of like techniques or practices that have like really helped a lot? Obviously she suggested going to pole and the strip club, but like are there other things that she suggested that like posse members could try on their own?
So actually the therapist that suggested me pole and strip club was my first one.
Oh, okay.
Let's see. Other stuff she did was, in the very beginning you were talking about retraining your thoughts.
Yeah.
She actually helped me do that. It was just, she had a lot more complicated layers and like a worksheet I would fill out. But essentially just like, I struggle a lot with anxiety too. So like if you're about to spiral, just like the first step is like noticing you're about to spiral and not even like being like, I have to stop. What do I do to stop it? Just like the act of being like, this is about to happen. I'm thinking this in my head. That's like a good first step. And then like practice that over a couple times. If you start having like a moment again or like a hard time or a panic attack or whatever it is, then you can practice stopping the thought. That was a big one, is just like trying to stop your thoughts. For sex, I'm trying to think of other ones. That was the two big ones. I think I got a lot of anxiety during like sex itself. So she would ask me to write down how I felt after every time I had sex and how it went and the thoughts I had. Did I do it? No, I don't think I did. But I remember that was another one. It's just trying to be more like aware of and conscious how you're feeling when you get anxiety about certain things. Oh, my favorite one, she did recommend me this book. Oh, this book changed my life. Okay, I have to talk about it. Okay. There's this book called Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski, I think. Have you guys heard of it?
Yes, I've
You
heard
have?
of it. I started listening to the audiobook and then I didn't finish for some reason, but I know it's like
Oh my God.
super recommended.
It changed my life. And like this woman, Emily, and I don't know her last name like exactly, but she is a sex educator. She's like a professor, I think, too. This is like her whole life. And the book is aimed probably towards older women than me who are like unhappy in their marriage sexually. And it was a lot about like, girl, you have to be confident before you have sex, or, you know, before you love yourself. But I mean, before you have sex with someone. But there's a lot of good stuff in there. I mean, and like I loved it being in my, 22 years old reading it. Like it talked about like just literally the science of your vagina. Like I didn't know half of that.
Like the nerves? Or
no, like I didn't know where the vulva was till I read that book.
Okay, yeah.
That was really cool. Like there's just stuff I hear or like have a conversation with my friends and I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember in the book she talked about this. So it's a lot about like relationships and like an example is if your sex life isn't good with your partner, the way your relationship is outside of sex has a lot to do with how your sex is. So if you're, she even used the example of like, if you're annoyed your husband hasn't done the dishes, like even though that's really little, that might come across in your sex life. So there's a lot of really cool stuff like that. Another one she talked about was like being aware of your body, which is also what my therapist told me. Just focus on like what feels good and really try and focus on you and don't like have your mind go somewhere else, which you talked about one time about, I know the whole podcast like front to back, but when you're talking about like going to Greece, that'd be like, that was like the best sex you ever had because like your head's always somewhere else. I feel that sometimes too. And so a lot about the psychology behind like relationships.
I'm gonna read this. This sounds really good.
It's really cool. I'm trying to think of other examples. She talked about like one example I learned or I referenced recently to my friends was like she was talking about the science for like a whole chapter of like people, primarily women who are in domestic abusive relationships and how their sex is really good because there's like the threat of the relationship ending or there's like almost like a threat of danger and that makes you for some reason like psychologically like more anxious to like connect sexually, I want to say. And so like people who have really standard, maybe mundane in a really healthy relationship might have more like boring or unfulfilling sex maybe. So it's just very interesting how she talked about like different relationships.
That is really interesting.
Yeah,
that is a good tip. Like,
yeah,
because I feel like it's, even if it's like not like if you're annoyed or something, whatever, it's like that nagging thing in the back of your head that like even if you're trying to ignore it to like enjoy sex or like do something else, like it's that shit keep's coming back. If you're, if it's there, it's there.
Yeah. Or it'll just like, for me, I'll be like, well, you have to make me excited. Like I'll just have more of an attitude.
Yeah.
And I'm coming into it almost like in a hostile way,
Yes.
where it's like, instead of like in a, this is like fun for us both together type of way.
Yeah. So.
And like we've all been in probably a toxic relationship where it was like, I feel like that's like the high highs and the low lows of a toxic relationship where it's like, it's so passionate and the sex is so good, but like I hate him half the time. And yeah.
There's some correlation there.
Yeah. That's so interesting. I need to get back to that book and finish it.
It's so cool. And she's cool and like she's just, I don't know. I like her because she's like kind of funky and she's nerdy and like I love it. She's so cool. So
okay, there's another thing I wanted to backtrack to. If you're okay with talking about this.
Sure.
You mentioned that like your friends kind of like were warning you and saw the signs. Are there any things that you feel like now in retrospect you would see as like signs of like this relationship is way too toxic? Like
what did my friends see or what did I see in my relationship?
I guess both.
Yeah. Or like what were they seeing that you then later saw because you weren't seeing it at the time?
Yeah.
I remember the first one. Well, I would kind of like vent to my friends way too much. But I was like, but I love him, but this. And then my friends would kind of be like, oh, is that still good for you? And I'm like, because I didn't know better. It was like my first relationship. I was like, yeah, like the relationship's great. I'm just anxious about this because that's how I am. I blamed everything on myself. But really I learned later, like my relationship is what made me so anxious. And that's the other thing. My best friend, I remember at like the very end of my relationship, she never like wants to tell me what to do. I don't know, it's just how she is. And I remember I was like Laura, I'm crying right now. Like, I don't know what's wrong, blah, 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 blah. Like, blank did this and stuff. And she was just like, it's really interesting how all of your anxiety is, like, circling back to him. And that message, like, really stuck with me. And I think we broke up, like, a week later. So my friends kind of saw just how anxious I was, how I didn't realize at the time I wasn't feeling good during sex. I thought something was wrong with me, which is why I did all that sex exploration stuff. And then my friends now are telling me, like, I could tell you didn't feel good during sex, and you, like, vocalized it just in different ways that, like, none of us really knew that's what was really happening, kind of, if that makes sense. And then for me, red flags, oh my god, how much time do we have? I think my biggest one, looking back on it, is my same friend Laura told me one time, like, I would tell her stuff about the relationship after I broke up, and she was like, there would be a lot of things I tell her, and she'd be like, why didn't you ever tell me that? And then she eventually said, she was like, I think it's a really bad sign if you're too scared to tell your best friend, like, something that happened. And so now I'm like, oh, yeah, there was a lot, because I try to, like, defend my partner's image and stuff.
Totally.
But I just, like, the very end, what made me break up with him was just, like, there was a series of events where he kind of, like, wasn't there for me in a lot of ways. And I was trying to excuse all of it, but I was, like, something in my gut was telling me to do it. So I did it. Best decision I ever made. So.
Yeah. I feel like it's interesting that, like, a lot of it comes from the feedback from your friends, because I'm definitely one to be, like, I never want to tell people what I think about their relationship, because I always feel like people kind of have to get there on their own.
Yeah.
And I don't want to alienate that person if they need help or support while they're in a toxic relationship.
Yeah.
By making them think that I hate their boyfriend or their husband or whatever. And it's so hard to be a friend of someone going through that and like walk that line of, like, I want to be here for you, but I also want to be honest without pushing them away,
No one ever flat out told me, like, leave him.
Yeah.
They were just more like, oh, it's interesting that.
Yeah.
But actually, it's interesting you say that, because I have a friend who is going through a really bad relationship, and I'm witnessing almost all of it, and I straight up am like, leave him, like, he sucks, all this stuff, but maybe I should try. Like, and I do support her too, but I'm, like, telling her what to do, kind of, but it's not working. I don't know.
Do you feel like you are alienating her? Like, do you feel like she's now at this point where she's scared to...
Well, she, like, talks to me because her family is that way, where they hate him and stuff, and I'm like, you can always talk to me, like, I've been through similar stuff, like, and I really support you, and I get why you love him and stuff, but I think you should consider, but he's, like, physically abusive, and I'm like, girl, you gotta get out. Like,
Yeah.
I say it like that, because I'm not gonna not have her be like, oh yeah, this bruise is from him, and I'm like, oh, ha ha ha, quirky, like.
Yeah, I feel like that's a situation where, like,
Yeah.
as long as she still feels like she can talk to you, like, you have to be honest with someone in that situation.
Yeah, and I'm still trying to, like, support her by being like her family says they're done talking to her about it.
Mm-hmm. So when I was at PSU, you have to, like, at Portland State, you have to do, it's not like a minor, but it's basically a minor. You have to have, like, I don't even remember what the word for it is called, but something that's, like, totally unrelated to your major that is, like, a track that you're on, basically. Okay. And mine was family studies. So I took a lot of family studies classes, a lot of, like, queer theory, like, feminist theory, because those were all kind of under that bucket. But one of the classes I took was called Sex and the Family. And it was, like, one of the best classes I've ever taken. So if anybody listening is going to PSU, you should take that class. But one of the things that we talked about in the class was how to help a friend leave an abusive relationship. And, like, one of the things they were saying is, like, the best thing you can do, like, instead of telling them to leave, is just helping them come up with a plan. Like, so, like, helping them come up with a way to stash money, or, like, a code word that they can use to text you if they ever need to get picked up, like, no questions asked, like, things like that. Like, coming up with kind of, like, tools to have at their disposal if they're in, because, like, a lot of the time it's, like, it's not going to be just, like, on a Tuesday that they leave. It's going to be, like, after something really bad has happened. Yeah. That is kind of like a catalyst. And so, like, having those things already there, like, okay, no, I can text Allison and say, like, do you want to go to pole class today? And Allison knows that that means I need to get picked up and, like, taken to Seattle or whatever, like, that kind of thing.
No, that makes really good sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and I never would have known that if I hadn't taken that class. It was definitely eye-opening for me.
Yeah, especially because, like, I feel like, I mean, this is common sense, but they're so reliant on the partner that, like, they probably can't think up a plan or a way to get money or a place to go, like, without him, maybe. So, yeah, they probably need that help more than anything, especially if they're, like, really drained, too.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
that's
even
good
being
advice.
like, you know, I'll go grocery shopping with you and you can take out cash back and I'll hold on to your cash for you, or so that they can't find it, or things like that, you know?
That's smart. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the hard part about like those kind of relationships. It's like you're dealing with like the cycle of abuse, and so it's like your friend is just in whatever part of the circle at any given time, and it just makes it so hard to. A lot of people are in it for a long time, and some you know, a lot of people don't ever leave those relationships, and so it's like like doing those small things that you can do while still being there for them, because like you said, like their whole family at that point has already been like, no, we're not dealing with you anymore, which is like the worst thing that can happen, because then you're even more isolated and even more pushed towards the one person that is helping you, but they're also abusing you.
Yeah. So I try to like tell people, like, I got really lucky that my boyfriend is like the best, and I think we'll be together for a while, and like we started dating like when I broke up with my ex-boyfriend, honestly, but that's a whole nother story. But so I feel really lucky I found someone right away that was so good for me and so good to me. And so I just tried to tell my friend, like, I know you love this guy, like I really loved my ex too, but you have to do it. Like, it's possible to find like a really good love out there. I mean, most people, it takes a long time, but I try to tell people, like, it happened to me. Like, I know you're the shoes you've been in, so.
I think you're a good person for her to have in her life, probably.
Oh, thank you. That's sweet.
Yeah. Okay, speaking of PSU, this is totally getting off of this topic, but when you brought up zines, this also reminded me of another class I took in college. So again, if anyone is at PSU, there's a senior capstone you can take where you get to make a zine with girls who are in a foster home. So you like go every week and meet with them and talk to them, and you help each girl figure out like what her project for the zine is going to be, and then you put it together, and then at the end you have a party where everybody gets a copy of the zine. And it was like, I cried so many times throughout this class. We did like a bake sale to raise money to print the zine, and like it was just like the coolest thing ever to get to like kind of help these girls who'd all been through various forms of trauma, like get to be creative and express themselves. And like, I think a lot of them got to feel seen in a way that they never really are. And it was really cool. So highly recommend that class to anyone who's in college.
I want to do that outside
Yeah.
of college.
So cute.
That's so cool.
I'll find the name of the professor who teaches it, because she's like an activist and does all kinds of stuff. So there's probably ways you can like be involved without being in college.
I was gonna say,
so
can
cool.
we just like get involved without like being in college? I would love to do that.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Something I like think about all the time, so this is really interesting, is like how to use art to help people. Because sometimes, like, to me, making art feels so like selfish, and so to find like that's how it's so impactful, is like it probably really helps those girls during that time. That's really cool.
Yeah. One way that we're really lucky is with Boudoir, like it doesn't feel as selfish, because you're like, you know, you're making an impact on the person whose photos are being taken.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
that they're going to see themselves in a new way when they see them.
Yeah, and that you guys focus on like bodies of all kinds, because I feel like it's not as selfless. Wait, hold on. Did I say that right? It's not as, I'm thinking of people who only like photograph a certain kind of body.
Yeah.
That feels more selfish than selfless, in my opinion.
Totally.
So that's really cool. Yeah. And to comment one more thing, something that helped me during my little journey was my boudoir shoot was like one of the best. I told Taylor one time I was like the cherry on top to my journey. It's like so healing and so cool and empowering. So
yeah, I love that.
Your photos are so good.
Yeah, they're gorgeous.
thanks, Hannah.
Hannah crushed it. She did a really good job.
She did.
So I feel like we've talked a lot about like embracing sexuality stuff, but like what about just like loving your body and being comfortable with your body? I mean, we've touched on that a little bit, but I also feel like it's like that could be its own whole separate journey probably.
Oh, that was earlier for me. I remember in high school I was really, really insecure. Like, I hated going out in public. I like always wore long sleeves. I like always sat in the back of the class because I didn't even like raise my hand in class, I remember, because I was like scared of people looking at me. Like, that's how insecure I was. It was pretty bad. And then, oh God, I'm trying to think of what helped me during that journey. I think like comparing myself to people, but in a good way. Like girls who were maybe like a little chubbier, I'm like, actually this is gonna tie into sex work actually. I always was like, oh, like this girl is a little chubby and she's so cute. Like it took years of that, but just kind of like unlearning all those things. I think there are still things that like everyone's going to be insecure. Like I remember watching an interview of Mila Kunis, who I think is just like so beautiful, and she was like, of course I have insecurities. And me at 16 was like, why do you have insecurities? Like I don't see, that interview like really stuck with me, but it's like you can have insecurities about certain things but still choose to like rock it. And it's just also like I feel like the era I grew up in, I got lucky because body positivity is so common now. And I mean, it wasn't when I was like growing up at like 12 or something, but lately it's been good. And just having like friends who are really supportive and their bodies all look certain ways, and like my chubbier friends will wear like bikinis. Like that was kind of like a moment where I was like, oh, like they look good, I'll look good too. Just kind of like hyping myself up. And then I probably did in high school, like looking in the mirror and being like, I like this today, and we'll just focus on that one thing I like, even if I hate the rest of it. And just kind of like trying to really learn to love my body. I worked on this journey by myself for years and years and years, so I owe myself a lot of credit. But honestly, like a huge thing that I was insecure was like boys or, you know, girls, whoever, like won't like me because I have a bigger stomach, right? This was like my insecurity forever. Having sex with my ex-boyfriend, like I was still insecure about that during sex. And like one time I brought up to him that I was insecure about my stomach, and he was just like, he like didn't really say anything, and I was like, okay. But my boyfriend now is like actually taught me a lot about like, because I've been male gazing myself for so long, and like I still do it obviously, but my boyfriend like is the first person really, and I simultaneously started doing like online sex work for a little bit, that made me realize that people are attracted to all kinds of people. And that has been huge. And like my boyfriend loves that I have a little chubby tummy. Like he loves my thighs. Like I don't know, he just like he talks about that all the time. And like to be like, oh, guys can like when girls aren't thick skinny. Like that's like so the narrative, which we love those people too. But I was just like, I thought I had to look like that for guys to like me, and for him to straight up to be like, I'm like attracted to your body type. I'm like, really? Like I really didn't think that was a thing till I was 24 and met him. And like he reminds me of that too. He's like, because I'll be like, we're going over to my grandparents, and my grandma will say something about my weight, and he's like, I'm trying to think of an example, but he like corrects my toxic thoughts. Like he was like, you look great, like you don't need to worry about like the fact you gained 5 pounds, like you look awesome. Like so I gained weight when I was on tour, and I was a little insecure about it. And like 2 days ago, I was in his mirror because I'm staying with him right now, and I was like, I've gained weight and I'm sexy. And I could hear him downstairs, and he goes, yeah, baby. And I'm like he's just like
supportive king.
Very supportive king. And like I don't know, so that's been like really helpful to be with a guy that doesn't have very toxic views of what's attractive. But again, I've been working on it on my own for like 7 years before that. But that was pretty helpful. And then I touched on this a little bit, but I forgot to say this earlier, but during my whole journey of breaking up with that partner and stuff, I started doing online sex work. I'm trying to think of if it was for the money or not at the time. I think I was really interested in like dancers and strippers and doing pole. I did pole at the time. And I think like I would go to a strip club and I'm like, I want to be like them. Do I really want to strip and be in that environment? Like, probably not, but I love their confidence and stuff, so I decided to do it online, and I did make money from it, but that was also a place where I realized all bodies are, like, loved and appreciated and sexualized, whether that's good or bad, but there's, like, obviously, like, subreddits for, like, chunky women or people who have small tits. People are into all different things, and that, like, doing online sex work was a huge like realization into that.
It's so true. When I was doing like a little bit of research on whether I wanted to do OnlyFans or not, I went onto those subreddits where like people will go and ask like for a very specific thing. They'll say like, I'm looking for a, you know, brunette with a MILF body who loves to chat or whatever. But like the number of times that I saw things like MILF body, which they're looking for someone who has a stomach.
Okay.
and you know, like curves, and like they're not looking for like flat stomach, like they're, you know, people asking for like, they're saying things like chunkier, thicker, you know, like all those kinds of things, like that people actively are searching for that. And it was very, very empowering to see like, wow, like there's literally a market for everything, you know, there's people who are attracted to everything. It's not just like, it's not like every post on there is like, I want this, like, you know, very specific male gaze body type that we've all been socialized to believe is the only one that is good. And I totally agree.
It was so cool. Like, the thing I'm insecure about is like my stomach, right? If I posted a picture where it was in there, I didn't feel like I had to edit anything about it, because I was like, someone's gonna find it hot, and then like people did. So that was really cool.
Yeah,
I think it's interesting that you brought up like your grandma and like commenting on like weight and stuff, because I feel like every grandma comments on like weight, at least like I don't think I know a single person whose grandma doesn't comment on weight to like anyone, you know.
my grandma didn't.
Really?
Yeah, but she
Nice.
talked about her own weight.
Okay.
She was always on a diet. She never shamed like anyone else.
Yeah.
But she was always on a diet, and I always thought she was so beautiful, and I always was like, I hope I look like her when I'm older, but she always wanted to be smaller, which made me sad for her.
Yeah. But thinking about it though, it's like the generation that like the grandmas grew up in, and like everything that they saw, and like things that were marketed to them, and it's like even like now, like we get to see so much representation all the time just on the internet and everything we have access to, you know, but like they're getting what, like one magazine, you know, and it has like 2 models in it, and you know, whatever it might
and they're
be
drinking Coke that has actual cocaine in it to be skinny.
Oh my god,
but it's just wild, like those things get ingrained in you, you know, and then obviously there's still so many issues in like our current times and like this current generation, but like, you know, just seeing the progress from like a couple generations is like makes me feel happier for what is coming for the future generations, you know.
Yeah, I feel like another example of that, and another example of my boyfriend being a supportive king, is like I don't really shave. Like, I like that. That makes me feel empowered, and like I'm reclaiming being feminine. Like I'll be like, oh, we're going over to my parents, like I need a shave, and he's like, no you don't. But I'm like, even my mom will be like, why haven't you shaved your legs in a week? That's her generation too, even though my mom's maybe not as much concerned with weight. There's just like other stereotypical things about being a woman, but I don't know, it's just very interesting too.
Well, it's like so ingrained in them that you can't be loved unless you follow all these rules.
Yeah.
That they're like, then they try to push those things on you because they're worried about you, but it comes off in this like very toxic way.
Yeah. And she's like, what do boys think about that? And I'm like, it doesn't matter what boys think. And then I found a boyfriend who like doesn't care. Actually, both my boyfriends haven't cared. Like, it's very much ingrained, I think. So.
Yeah. If you're with someone who really is like talking about how your legs aren't shaved or like how your stomach isn't flat, like that person is toxic. And there's a lot of people out there who don't give a fuck.
Bad. I want to give this analogy I read one time when I was insecure about my body and sex and stuff. But I was like on Reddit. I was gonna say this is so TMI, but I forgot I'm like with you guys. But there was like
nothing
a post.
is TMI.
There was this post that someone put that was like, I shaved my vagina and it's like stubbly. Like, do guys care if there's an ingrown hair or something? And all the guys responded and were like, no. And I remember this one comment was like, when a dog sticks his head out the window, do you think he gets unhappy when he sees a stop sign? No, he's still happy the whole time, no matter what. There's something about that, just like, dude, whoever you're having sex with should just be so happy and thankful, like, to be having sex with you. And so I just think of like, the dog is always happy when when his head's out the window.
I love that analogy.
That impacted me, obviously, too.
That's such a good analogy. They should just be happy to be there.
Yeah, literally. And so it turns out, I mean, there are probably some toxic people, but a lot of people don't care about what's going on.
I mean, everyone's way more in their head.
Yeah,
and like absolutely. A lot of no one's thinking about the things that you're thinking about that you're like freaking out about. And I mean, and if that's the kind of like sex you're having where somebody is being like rude to you about your body or like disrespectful or like that's not a good that's not worth your time. That's not a good situation.
Fuck that person. But don't fuck them. Stop fucking them.
Stop fucking them.
Emotionally fuck that person.
Yeah, I agree. Supportive kings are the only boyfriends that we accept around here.
So true.
I have like very specific memories of my husband telling me that he didn't care if I had a flat stomach too, because I think I had maybe never opened up to a guy about being nervous about that or insecure about that until him. Like, he was the first person I trusted to like really share those insecurities with, so he was able to like you know, reflect his opinion back to me. And like, I remember he told me once, like, well, I kind of see a super flat stomach as like a masculine thing. And like, I think it's like really beautiful and like feminine that you have like soft skin right there. And like, I don't really care about that. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I just don't want your like butt to shrink, basically.
And that was when I came back from tour. To my boyfriend, I was like, "Do you think I've gained weight?" And he's like, "Yes, but it all went to your ass." And I'm like, "Okay, good.
Yeah,
that's fine."
Yeah.
So.
I don't know. It's just, I think if you're with someone that you trust and you can like share those things with them and hear their perspective on it, it can be powerful. Like, I had a therapist once who had me write a list of 20 things I liked about myself that didn't have to do with like thinness. And then she was like, if you can't think of 20, ask your husband to like help you fill out the list. And so all the things he gave me, none of them had anything to do with like my size, you know? And it was like just empowering to like hear those things. So
yeah,
everybody should do that.
Yeah. And when we're looking at partners, I don't like, before you guys were married, I'm sure you didn't think about their bodies really. You were attracted to other things about your partner.
Yeah,
so.
it's always like the personality first.
Yeah.
It's like the things that you can criticize yourself about that you would never even think to say to your friend or think about your friend or anything like that, but you can so easily say to yourself in the mirror, you know?
Oh yeah,
totally.
absolutely. But another thought on that I have is like I'm not straight. And so when I was like dating girls, I would like, I don't know, I just thought what I'm attracted to. And so I try to like reverse that onto myself. And I was like, oh, I'm attracted to this girl who doesn't look a certain way. Like people will find me attractive. And honestly, that was really helpful too.
Yeah. I bet.
Yeah, I bet. I think that's another like really hard thing is like girls growing up, it's like you see like a standard of like, you know, famous women or like celebrities or whatever, like things you see in magazines, and like we were just talking about, obviously a lot of that is like now changed with the internet and just being able to see a variety of people. But like when you get so used to only seeing that, you think that that's like the only mold that you can fit into, you know? And it's like, it's hard when, honestly, it must be freeing dating other women because you're like, oh wait, like this is like just another real woman. Like,
yeah. I mean, like, I never like ever officially dated a girl, but I went on a couple dates with this one, well, a couple times, but I remember this one girl, the most serious queer situation I had, which wasn't even that serious at all. But I remember I did compare myself to her a lot though, because she was tinier than me. So my queer friends and I have talked about that too, because then you're comparing. But when I'm out in the world and I'm like, oh, this girl is cute, like she's normally like looks like me, so has the same body type. I mean, so,
Totally.
yeah, that feels validating.
Yeah.
should we move on to our obsessions?
Yeah, let's do it. Allison,
Hey, you guys look at me
wanna
at
go
the same
first?
time.
Our guest of honor.
Okay, I've been thinking about this all week, and like I in between places right now, so I feel like I haven't bought certain things I want to. AKA I really want your air humidifier, but I'm like waiting until I move into my new place to buy anything for my house. So I want to say, well, one, I could say two obsessions. So briefly, I'll say I've been listening to a lot of Rosalia. I don't know if that's an obsession,
love
but
that.
I think currently what I'm very like hyper focused on is like my well-being, which is good. Like I'm very much trying to feel like I just lived this like crazy life for 6 weeks where I was like couch surfing and eating fast food. And so I'm really focusing on like cooking for myself and like forming a routine and just trying to be healthy and mature and adult. And so that's what I'm going to say my obsession is I'm just really trying to take care of myself and yeah, listen to my body. So
I love that. That's
Yeah.
a good one.
Yeah, that's a really
all
good
need to be
one.
doing that.
yeah.
Okay, my obsession this week is, it's an article that I read
On TikTok.
on TikTok. I found this girly on TikTok last night, actually. Her name is Soko's Kitchen, and I found her initially because she had this recipe for birria tacos that looked really good.
Sorry, I was literally opening up TikTok to start following this person right now, and then TikTok happened.
Her recipe for birria tacos looked really good, and so then I started stalking her page, and she has all these mocktail recipes, like so many of them.
Yum.
Ooh.
And like I have seen mocktail recipes on TikTok, but a lot of the time people are using like the stuff that's like fake alcohol, like they're putting like NA rosé or like whatever to make it taste like alcohol. And like I don't want a mocktail that tastes like alcohol. Like I just want a fancy drink that tastes good.
Yeah.
And I'm not like, oh, it's been 14 years, I really need a sip of wine. Like I don't fucking care. And so that's what these drinks are, is like they're just like delicious looking ingredients. I actually haven't made any yet because I need to go to the grocery store to like get some ingredients, but I'm really excited to try one of them and just like excited to have found someone who's making like mocktails that I actually want to drink. So
Hopefully they're good once
Yeah.
you try them.
Yeah.
Hopefully you like them. Yeah.
I'll update next week.
Ooh, that looks really good.
Yeah.
Ooh, fun. We have like it's like a citrus press. So we like, Gavin uses it a lot for like juicing things. And we have like the soda stream too. So he'll make me like mocktails with like a grapefruit and like the soda stream and whatever, just
I love
simple.
that.
But I love this like
Yum.
next level where like maybe we
Yeah.
can buy a few more ingredients just to make them look even like cuter, you know?
I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
that.
Well, like one of them is like rhubarb syrup.
Ooh.
And like literally all you have to do to make that is you buy rhubarb, you chop it up, and you like simmer it and put some honey in, and then you strain it, and that's rhubarb syrup. So
Wow.
like you can make all these syrups on your own really easily. So that's one of the things I want to try.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I
that's
can't
so
wait to
cool.
hear your update on this.
Yes, I will share once I try.
Okay.
Cute.
My obsession has been this continued obsession, thank you to Melissa, with my postures. I have been continuing to do my stretches. I'm very proud of myself. I'm also now trying to be really cognizant when I'm sitting in chairs of like pulling my shoulders back. Like I want to be, you know when like ballerinas walk into a room and they just have the most beautiful posture? I want to be a ballerina. So I have been just like, obviously during this podcast I have been slouching, but normally now this last week every time I'm like sitting I like will be really cognizant of, like pulling my shoulders back and like making myself sit up straight. I think this is going to be like years and years of progress to try to correct my hunchback, but this is going to help, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you should take a ballet class.
Maybe I should.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was thinking about buying those really embarrassing straps, you know, that you put around your back and arms that literally pull your
Ballet
arms up.
class is way more fun than
Yeah,
that.
ballet class is more fun. And also I was like, I don't need to spend money on this stupid strap. I just need to like pull my shoulders back and like
Yeah.
stop slouching. I don't think I would do well in ballet class because I'm like really pigeon-toed. I have a really hard time
Really?
doing this. What is this?
Turnout.
Yeah, turnout. Like
Yeah.
I can't turn out very far.
I can show
at
you
all.
some stretches to help you with your turnout.
Ooh.
Okay, I mean, I don't know if it'll like. I have been this way like my whole life. Like
Really?
my feet can turn in really far. Like
Like
really
how far?
Like I can go very far. I'll
gonna have to show
I'll
us.
show you
Yeah,
guys,
demo.
but they like turning out. It like hurts my knees. Like I think it's like
Really?
how my bones and ligaments have grown at this point. That,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I've never done like an adult ballet class, but my guess is that they're not. Ballet teachers in adult ballet are probably not as strict because they're not
Yeah.
trying to prepare you for a career as a ballerina
Just, like,
because your
having
ship has
fun.
sailed.
Do you think that they do just like amateur adult ballet
Yes.
class?
Yes, I see
Yes.
so many people on TikTok doing adult ballet. It's a little triggering for me, I will say.
Okay.
As a former ballerina, but
Okay.
I think if it's something that interests you at all, you should try a
Yeah.
class because there's lots of people that have never done it before that are
Yeah.
like starting it now as adults.
That's so
Yeah.
cool.
And I don't
Yeah.
want to do it for the weird, unhealthy. I literally want to do it for posture. Like I
Yeah.
want to do it for my back.
yeah, it'll definitely help with that.
Okay, maybe we'll see. I'll think about it.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, Allison, where can
Yeah.
the posse find you?
Oh yeah. I'm on everything should be Allisonder, so it's ALLIISONDER. And Instagram's my main one.
And you can find us at peach.posse on Instagram, Peach Posse on TikTok, and Naked Peach Boudoir on all the socials, and
Yes.
nakedpeachboudoir.com.
And posse, like, if you want to like rate and review the podcast, we would really appreciate that too.
Yeah, please rate and leave us a review. We always forget to ask that, but we really appreciate it when you do, and it helps us continue to keep doing the pod and grow more.
Yeah, and tell your friends.
Yeah.
We
Tell
love
your
that
friends
too.
about us. Tell your friends who need some sex and body image therapy to listen to this episode.
Yes.
Free body image therapy right
Free.
here.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's better than free therapy?
So true.
All right, and you can find me at Anna McLaughlin Photo,
You can find me at T Smells.
and we'll
See you next Tuesday. Bye.
Bye.